All right. Well, welcome to the very first podcast. I can't believe we're actually doing this, but I'm so excited, and I just want to thank all three of you for being here. It means a lot. I know that we're going to have a great conversation, and hopefully this will impact somebody's life in a positive way. And if they don't know who Jesus is, I hope they'll at least be encouraged to go seek him out. For those who don't know, last year had something real supernatural, intense happen to me, and it's led me to want to get involved with stuff like this. And I really appreciate you guys being here because I've known you all for years. I know that you're all good, strong women of faith, and I wanted to sit down and just talk and share stories and see if we can't help somebody else like I could have used years ago. I've loved God for a long time, and I spent years away from him, and he reeled me back in, and I'd love to just open it up and hear your story. So,
okay, well, I guess since this is the first time people hearing from me, my name is Rosanna. Originally from Texas, Hispanic. I grew up in a household where one parent was Church of Christ and grew up that way, and one parent who was Catholic. And so kind of split my times as a child going, to different churches and things like that. And not sure that I really ever truly understood the gospel. I knew about God, but I didn't have a relationship with him. And so it's kind of hard for me to follow Christ when I didn't really know him. So I spent a lot of my time being rebellious and living for myself and doing what I wanted to do. And so I ended up a teen mom, a single teen mom. And then a couple years after that, I would, meet my husband. The first, maybe 5-8 years of our marriage would be rough because we still weren't following the Lord, right? We both had a knowledge of God, but not following. And then we moved here to Alabama. And after friends who were pretty consistent with inviting us to church, we finally decided that we would take them up on that invitation. And the first time that I heard the pastor speak, I was like what you were talking about earlier, like, oh, he's talking to me. He's looking right at me. Right. And so to me, that was the first time I think that I felt like Holy Spirit, right? That nudge that you don't know where it's coming from, but you're like, oh, I feel that. Right. And then of course we wouldn't go consistently. It was just kind of, here and there that we would go. One day it was Sunday and Ryan was already at work. So it's just me and the kids. And y'all, at this point in my life, I have 3 kids, all 10 and under. And so to get up and get ready for church with 3 kids, I was like, oof, I don't know that I'm really feeling it. I'm kind of tired. And that little voice in your head is saying, oh, you don't need to go. It's fine. Just stay in bed and sleep in. You deserve to sleep in. You're a mom and you work hard and all the things. But something in my spirit said, no, you need to get up and you need to go to church. Because this is a time where my marriage was extremely rocky. My parenting was lacking, and life was not the best, right? We were struggling in all areas of our life. And so I got the kids ready and we went to church, and I took the older 2 to children's church, and then I went to drop my youngest off at the nursery, and he was extremely clingy. He didn't want to let go. He wanted to be with mom. And at this point, we'd already been going to the church for a few months. So, people in the nursery knew me. They knew my son. They could see how exhausted I was. And I was holding my son, and I told the nursery leader, I was like, I think I'm just going to sit back here with him. I'll just sit back here with him. It's fine. And she looked at me, and she could see the desperation and exhaustion in my eyes. And she took my son out of my arms, and she said, I got him. She's like, I got him, honey. She's like, you go to church. You need to be with Jesus. And I get emotional thinking about it because that friend is now with Jesus. But because of her boldness, I would give my life to Christ that day. She took my son from me and said, hey, I got him. You need to go be with Jesus. And I'm listening to my son cry as I'm walking down the hallway to get to the sanctuary. And music's already started. You know, they're already on the first song. So I go find my seat. And of course, this is still, you know, the shy, introverted me trying to find a seat in a row where nobody's in it, right? Like, let me go sit here by myself.
I relate.
Hey, everybody can relate to that one.
And so this song comes on. And mind you, I'm also new to contemporary Christian music. Never heard of it, right? Like, this is the first time when we started going to this church. And the song came on, and it's called "How He Loves." One of the lines in the song says, "I don't have time to maintain these regrets when I think about the way that He loves us." So months I've been hearing the gospel being preached to me, and then hearing those words and realizing that I had never been in a relationship with Jesus because I was too busy holding on to my past. I was too busy holding on to all the things that I was regretting, wishing I could go back and change things. And God is like, I don't need you to go back and change things. I just need you to surrender to me right now and walk with me moving forward. I've already washed you clean. I've already forgiven you. You've already been redeemed by the blood, so surrender to me. And I had that supernatural experience of, after hearing that song, I just broke down in tears. And like I said, there was nobody around me. I picked a row where there was nobody there, but I felt like somebody was hugging me, like just embracing me and squeezing me and holding me up. And at that moment, I was like, okay, God, you can have my life. Because what I'm doing isn't working. And I'm tired of holding on to regrets. So you can have it. So ever since then, that has been my goal, is to just walk with the Lord in everything that I do. And, you know, my growing up, I didn't have a whole lot of role models. I'm not saying that I didn't have a good life or anything like that. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my family. They just weren't the best role models. And so I always want to be the individual that I needed when I was younger. So that is why I'm get involved in youth ministry and children's ministry and college ministry. Like, I want to pour into the people that, you know, that were me at that one point.
That's awesome.
Man, that's a good story.
Mm-hmm.
How powerful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that was one of the things I loved, like when we worked together years ago. It was like, you know, don't get me wrong, we'd have a real estate fund and, you know, everybody had their own life, but you always had that presence about you. So I always appreciated that because it showed, and I'm thankful for it, because I think that was part of something that I genuinely believe that was God still like nudging me, like, hey man, I'm still here. Like, I know that you're out living for yourself right now, and I'm gonna let you do a lot of stupid stuff, but I'm gonna call you home back. I will call you back soon.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I remember when you posted on social media, like you were actively posting on social media about your walk with the Lord and everything. And I remember sending you a text and telling you,
Yeah.
I prayed for this, brother.
Yeah.
I prayed for this.
And a lot of people did. So I can't.
It's amazing how he puts people in your life that, right, exactly. Like, I mean, especially a random high school connection, like random work, you know, all trickling through.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh, here's this like-minded person that you see a glimpse of something that you've had or something that you have strayed away from. In my walk, you know, mine was, I was always raised in it, but I didn't always follow it. You know,
Yeah.
I just didn't make it top priority. Definitely spent a few years living for myself and living for the world, and, you know, circling back to that where you start thinking, I had a kid, and then I was like, ooh, I need to be a better example, right?
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden then I am an example, even though I've probably been an example to other people without my knowledge. Hopefully I did okay. But,
Well,
you know, all of a sudden you think about your own kid.
Yeah.
And you're like, I really want her to see this. I want her to get this more places than Sunday school. You know, we got to get a home church, and we got to get our foundation right.
Yeah, not just that hour on Sunday.
Right. And even, but at that point, it wasn't even that for us. We didn't have a home church. So We weren't faithfully attending a church. I had gone all the way from birth through high school, and then college, through early marriage. We weren't, we'd go on Easter, we'd go Christmas Eve service, stuff like that, when my mom would invite us, or we would have a random, hey, let's go to church day. But yeah, having that home church where really it's not even the building, or it's getting that community, getting that foundation back.
Well, I think that's what I'm realizing more and more too. It's like, I thought church was the building, but we're the church,
Right.
And I think realizing that and realizing how important your circle is, and you don't want to build your circle to like alienate anybody else, but man, you are who you surround yourself with. And I've really realized that over the years, and that's not to act like I'm better than anybody, because I'm definitely not. But I let a lot of people influence me over the years. And
My grandma used to say that. She would say, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are.
yeah,
Well, yeah, I mean, how could it not be true? Yeah. Or they say, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Like, you see where you're headed. That's there's a reason that they're all the same. If that needs adjusting, which it did in our life, we were like, and not that we're not still kind and loving to any of the people who have been in our life, but it's figuring out the things that you don't want to be a part of, or you don't want to be associated with, or just don't fit with your values.
Well, and I think it's also understanding that we're not writing people off. I'm just setting boundaries.
Right.
I'm setting boundaries to guard my heart and to guard my mind. So
Guard your family.
Yeah, I don't say this story proud, but I do tell the story. But I almost met Aaron for the first time getting picked up out of jail for getting into a fight.
You almost met Erin the first time, or that's how you met Erin?
Almost how I met her the first time, because thankfully, I got a couple pods of friends. Well, she happened to be with one pod of friends who was, hey, Stoltz got arrested and we got to go get him for a stupid little bar fight. And I think about that so many times, because it's like, oh my gosh, back to your surroundings. And I'm like, what's better, to be at a bar on a Saturday night or be with a different crowd? And I'll take the different crowd any day of the week. And again, talking about like the circle, like I've known you since you were probably this big. Because your brother and I played soccer, and like your brother and I have known each other for forever. And obviously people get older and part ways, and so I never knew.
Oh,
I never kind of knew this side about you, and I'm so thankful for it, because you're a wealth of knowledge. So
this side of me is basically new, because I was the one of 7 or so Mormons in high school, and that upbringing was different. And my parents, I love them. I love my family. Like, they're wonderful, wonderful people. Be there for you in a heartbeat, no matter what. I struggled feeling like I was being forced to carry a belief in a bag of bricks every day, feeling like I was never fitting in anywhere, and not understanding why I was so different from everyone in school, right? I kept to myself so much, just in a lot of ways, because it's like, oh, all of my friends go to the same church. All of my friends go to these summer camps and VBS and things like that. And then I'm over here being herded into church activities and stuff that were with different people, because there weren't a lot of us in the school and stuff. And frustrated that I was looked at so differently. But in my mind, I'm like, but I believe in Jesus, but I believe in God. It was so hard to just know where I fit because of that misunderstanding. Being Mormon, it was very much a programmed the only right way. And I remember feeling nothing but shame my whole life. And I'm never going to be good enough. I'm never going to measure up to what this expects of me. But yet at the same time, my brain was completely programmed to think, but that's the only way. So if you don't measure up, epic failure on your part, And seeing all my friends so happy. And like even my cousins and aunts and uncles and stuff, I'm like, man, how are people so at ease with this faith? Because again, I thought it was also the same, not realizing that there was just so much drastic difference. So it took a lot of, as soon as I turned 18, I was out the door. I was like, I'm not going to church. I did what we liked to call Rumspringa for me. I'm breaking free. I'm going to go live life and see what it's like.
That's where
without the rules. And that's when I met this one.
Rumspringa.
Because I was hitting up the bars and I was just trying to see what was out there and also just try to leave the weight that I carried away from me. And that led to trying to find relief of that weight in meeting somebody. Like, I was programmed to believe that the only purpose I served was to grow up, get married, have babies, raise them in the church. That was it. That was the only goal in life I should have. So when I'm breaking free of going to church and dealing with that, because I'm finally an adult at 18.
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all? But I actually had the freedom to choose if I wanted to go or not. And I was like, nope, went crazy, met wonderful people through poor choices, but wonderful people that stuck with me. But in that time, this is what was so crazy to me. In that phase of my life, I went to a desperate point in my mid-20s when I was like, I felt like I was just a bad person. I just wanted to know if I was a good person. I always prayed. I had that part. And so I had kind of an experience like y'all have talked about where it was just me on my knees in my bedroom crying out, like, just, am I even a good person? Like, because I am making all these choices that don't go with how I was raised. So am I doomed? And it was like you said, it's like somebody just embraced me. I had this vision put in my mind, clear as day, and then it was just the most overwhelming peace and comfort. That was the start. That was like the foundation that God's real, he's there, and he's listening. Then, kind of like what you're talking about of being an example, my brother started dating somebody, and I felt, okay, I need to get back on track. Well, still in my brain, that was the only track that was right, was being Mormon. So I tried going, I'd go back to church. And it's fascinating because it's not that I was without God and without the Spirit. I felt it in many ways, but it was never when I was in any kind of surrounding of speaking on Book of Mormon or Mormon doctrine or, things like that. I never had it then, but when I was asked to give a talk, I was asked to do all this stuff because I was a return member, I guess is how they put it. But I felt the Spirit lead me when I spoke in those because I was determined to go, why don't we ever talk about the Bible as much as they do the Book of Mormon, So I made sure that my stuff was founded in that. Never talked about any of the other stuff. At that time, that didn't register. But I know I felt the Spirit. I know I felt God leading me through this until I did the temple thing. I went and did the underwear thing. I went and did all this stuff because I thought I was supposed to. And I was doing it because I was still trying to find that solidifying, this is right feeling. I was trying to feel that weightless, like, oh, I love this, And it was not coming. It was not. And no matter what I did, the experiences in that building, anything, it was just off. It did not feel right to me ever. It never did. And I fell into a very dark depression. I begged God to end my life. But I was so tired of feeling like I was never going to be good enough. Like I was just never going to be that person that got that solidifying reassurance of faith. And then COVID happened and I stopped going to church. The anxiety I would feel before that happened just to try and go to church, I'd feel anxious. I'm like, why am I so anxious about stepping in to church? It was so many things that God literally just put me through until, let's see, it was a few years ago. My sister, she came across CES letters, and all of this was led up because of The Chosen. Watching The Chosen, wonderful. But she was led to researching. She found CES letters. He was a 7th generation Mormon, and he had questions. And for his questions, instead of answering or trying to explain it, they kicked him out, labeled him an apostate, and said, get out, but they wouldn't answer the questions. And she said, hey, there's something I need you to read. And she sent it to me. Thank you. I'm struggling over here.
I almost asked if we needed a box of Kleenex.
I didn't expect to get into that, but.
Because I'll tell you this, I was prepared for me to choke up at some point, so.
But I read these letters, and as soon as I laughed, they opened my eyes to the difference of what I grew up believing versus what the Bible teaches. And I was so relieved. Like, that was an immediate weight. I dropped that bag of bricks. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. She said, how do you feel about it? And I was like, I laughed and I'm thrilled. And I just feel like I'm justified in the feelings I've had my entire life of feeling like this was not working. Like I felt there was something wrong with me my whole life. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and that's gone. From then, it became, okay, I had that moment in my 20s, because at this point, I'm in my 30s. This is a lot of time had passed. And I was like, okay, I'm starting at the beginning. I'm getting a fresh new Bible. And then from that, I have like 5 now, because I had that one. I have an ESV. And I start getting in all these. And now the love of reading that built more on just knowing I knew God was there because of that moment in my 20s. But that didn't turn my life around, clearly. But then getting to this point, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to read just from the Bible. And I didn't go to church. I didn't find a church. I couldn't. I don't trust them.
Little church hurt.
Little church hurt.
I think we've all been. Yeah, you're on a.
Well, kind of a lot.
You're a 10 out of 10, but.
But yeah. So then it was like, okay, it's me and God, prayer and Bible. That's all I wanted. I started listening. My cousin gave me a podcast to listen to, which opened up a door to a guy in California, actually. And I just loved his sermons. I loved his sermons. And so I was listening to his more. And then when they built the church, built Highlands up the road, and y'all started going there, I was like, yeah, I'll go. Because I felt like I need to go. I want to go somewhere. And if I have people there, because introvert person, not going solo, not doing that. I was like, cool, I can go and do that. And at least get that part. But I would still go home and like listen to other sermon podcasts. And I was just trying to learn. I was trying to learn because my eyes were being opened to so many things, the differences between the beliefs. And a year ago this month that I had my saving moment in my bedroom after a sermon. I would just hit my knees. And like you said, it was that beautiful just embrace of love. And it was a turning point. It flipped a switch. And at that moment, like, I lost anxiety. I lost the fear of just like, where do I go from here? I'm so misguided. I'm so, whatever. All of it was gone. And then it was just like, I just came out of my room and I'm like, I love everybody. I just want everyone to know Jesus
You're like a cartoon,
real.
yeah.
He's in my heart officially. Like, I just want everyone to know it. And ever since that, it has not changed. And that is what's beautiful. It's not like this was just a moment and then I went back to normal. It has not changed. All I want is for people to know that kind of love, because that's what I was seeking the whole time. And I didn't have it in the way that, like, I thought I had to earn it. And then meeting someone through church, Jilly, she found out my past, and then she was like, we need to pray over you. I'm like, okay.
Like, I'm gonna pray some of that off
So
of you.
we did
Yeah.
that, and that was really cool. And then my sister decided she wanted that too, but with family. So my aunts and uncles, who were all good, strong Christian people, got together at my cousin's house and prayed over us. And oh crap. Okay, my aunt, she had it written in. She has multiple Bibles because, you know, as she goes through them, she's making notes. And she had written in it a long time ago. She had put my family's names down and has been praying for the family to come to Jesus truthfully. And all of our names are written down. And my uncle said just before this, like a few weeks before that, months, I don't know, she, in her personal prayer, was just begging God, give us one. Give us one.
Give us one of them. Yeah.
They had no idea that years
That you had been on the cusp for
I
years.
had been on that journey. Because I'm not that open with people like around. I'm not just about to start going up and telling everybody what I'm going through. It's not something I'm good at. But
Same.
yeah.
Well, and there's a whole dynamic with that too, where you're battling with it between your family and your, you know, extended family, and it's you're not trying to be disrespectful to anybody. You're just trying to do what's right for you and where it feels
Well,
correct.
and I'm trying to
like,
figure it out for myself.
Exactly.
Because I'd been.
You didn't have like a clear answer yet.
I went through life on other people's testimonies, right? Like of just what they felt. And I just believed it because I thought I was supposed to, you know, as a child, you're taught something. That's what sticks.
That's how you were indoctrinated.
Yes. Which I researched the science on all of them. Anyway.
The brain is
It's
wild thing.
Hey, that's good you like that, because
I love it.
God bless people who like really hardcore dive in and research.
Oh,
Cause
she's my finder. I'm like, I saw this video, and it's just a random. I don't know. I didn't do any research, but it said
She likes to
blah
just
blah
slip.
blah, and I'll just spit out the little like you know, it's basically it's the clickbait, and I'll just spit out the clickbait of whatever it is, and then she's like, huh.
She's the fact checker.
And then I get to hang out in my la 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 land, and she's over here like, did you know that, according to this published study from you know, and she just
I can't help it.
she deep dives, and I love it because
we all need those people in our life, because I need them.
I won't do it.
No, nor will I.
I cannot. I'm just I cannot.
I rely on faith. I mean, and I know you do too. But I'm just like, God's not going to let me go down somewhere too
but can
far
I
that I don't
also
need to be.
say that clickbait, y'all, that's the enemy sneaking in.
Oh, I know.
That's the enemy sneaking
100%.
in, and we believe it. And it's like, yo, you need to do that deep dive.
No,
you
you have
need to
to have-
fact check. You
for
need
sure.
to ask questions. You need to question it. Like,
Absolutely. Because
Yeah,
there's
'cause-
always more to it.
Well, there's false prophets. There's false teachers
false,
out there, and so
like-
one of the things I love the most about where my journey is right now is the like-minded people that I love and trust, and I know where her faith stands, and I know where, you know, so I know she's not gonna, and I'm not relying all my like Whitney said
does some for herself.
It's like Whitney said this, so it's true. But you know, it's like it's a great resource to say, well, I deep dove into this, let's go get this book, let's look into this further, you know, so we can find out.
Oh, what was so funny is my cousin, I keep saying my cousin, there's so many of them, but this one who's in ministry, you know, I talked to him a lot about everything, and he mentioned to me the systematic theology book, and I found it. I didn't pay attention to how big that, when it came in the mail,
it's like this thing.
it's a huge textbook.
It's like
it
this
is
thick.
a huge
Yeah,
textbook.
I shall not be buying that one.
Oh, I was
She reads
giddy.
it for fun, like
Good for you.
Giddy.
I'm glad you're my friend.
Pulled it out and put it on the counter. My sister, she saw it and she goes, "Oh," and I was like, "I am so excited about this."
You could do deadlifts with that thing.
Oh my gosh, I love it
Got to pay
so
like
much.
$200 for shipping because of the weight.
Yes, and I think that just comes from history. Like my past is, I'm going to research. I'm going to look into everything the best I can, but at the same time, it's all faith led. Like I am going to go where I feel called to go in my research, but that Bible is first and foremost.
But I think that's also how we guard our hearts, right? Like you talk about you having trouble stepping into a church because you weren't sure if you could trust them, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you have to test where you're going. Are they teaching you the Bible? Are they teaching it to you in the right context, right?
Right. And
the only way you know that is by studying the Bible yourself, right? So how can you know if somebody's teaching you the truth if you don't know the truth? So I'm with you. I'm like, I'm going to fact check everything. I'm going to go research. I'm going to go find out what they were doing in the Old Testament, why they were doing it. How does that apply to us today?
Who
like
wrote
all
it? Who are they speaking to?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Context is so important. And it can easily be left out. People are real quick to grab a verse and cherry pick it and then throw it at something that they want it to stick to.
Yep.
Well, and it's crazy.
And it's like, that's not what that was. Like, that's not who he was writing about or who they were talking to, or that has nothing to do with what you're attaching it to.
It's crazy, how this verse can read something, but if you don't get the top of it and what's below it, this could mean a totally different thing. It's
exactly.
like, well, yeah, you took out a lot of the you took a lot of that info out.
I think
There's a lot more meat in there.
Yeah.
I think that's a big struggle with a lot of debate in Christianity, whether it be Christian versus, agnostic or whatever the case may be, is the discussion sometimes doesn't go deep enough, or the implication is not explained on either side. So we talked about this a little bit last night, where there was like a video that says, you just need to accept Jesus in your heart. And then
they were like, where in the Bible does
where
it
does
say?
it say that? I said, okay, but see what doesn't get explained there, right? We say accept Jesus in your heart. There's so much more meaning and purpose behind that. It's in the scripture that you are given a new heart. Like, when you turn to Jesus, when you put faith in his life, death, resurrection, all of that, he renews your heart. So I think it's just a quick way to say, I'm washed clean. He's in my heart. I have a new heart, and I am pursuing my relationship with him. That is all kind of wrapped up into accept him into your heart. And that's the part that I think gets misconstrued. It's like they want to cherry pick. That's just so simple. That's not how easy it works. There's so much more to it.
You're raised to new life, and you're to walk with him every day. And that's work. And it's hard.
Yes.
It's not easy.
It is.
Well,
hard.
yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing is like when you, like you mentioned, you got to ask him in. And then that's when the work starts. So you can't ask him in and then still live the same life you were living.
Right.
And and I think that's,
You're creative.
it sounds so simple.
It does, but there's so much more to it.
And it is simple, but it's so much more complex.
And then the argument when there's work to it, right? And people say, well, you can't earn your way. You're right, which is why we have that grace.
Faith without works is dead.
But when you have that new heart, when that happens for you, because this is what I testify to, is it's work, but it's longed for work. It's easy work.
Yeah.
I want to do it.
Absolutely.
I want to do that now.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Like,
You're not going on there your good deeds. I'm not basing this on my good deeds. I'm basing this on like I am
called to do
I am
this.
repenting of what I am walking away. And that's another thing that I've realized. Repenting is not some crazy process. It's just I was going this way. Now I'm going this way.
You're turning away.
Yeah, and you're turning away from it. And I think that's just been the biggest.
There's so much where it's like, oh, I can't even go to God yet. I'm so messed up in this or that, or, I'm still struggling with, like, I'm too dirty to even start. And it's like, that is not the case at all.
No.
Like, you are already loved. You are already worthy. You are already accepted. Then God will convict you, the Holy Spirit, through the Holy Spirit, for things that you need convicted for.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to come across those things and experience them in a different way, in their own unique way, depending on, their relationship with Christ. So
beautiful thing now is there's no bag of heavy bricks that you feel you're carrying to do so. That's the difference to me, is I'm happy to do it. And there are hard parts to it, but it's not overwhelming my mind.
we've talked about how, like, in physical appearance, she is lighter. Like this Whitney, BC Whitney versus now Whitney is just
drastically
she's just lighter.
That's the piece that comes with.
Because she instantly You know, it's
okay.
the
Yeah.
thing you were longing
You can
for,
rest.
where it was easy. You're like, why does it look so easy for them? Why are they so happy in this?
And it's not
like,
necessarily that it's easy. It's just that because we walk with the Lord, He gives us peace in our suffering.
right, right.
There's
So not
peace
that
in
your
our
life
suffering.
situations change and you don't have struggles anymore. It's nothing
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Well, and you mentioned like COVID
rest in
earlier,
that.
like it was a interesting time for you, because that was a very interesting time for me, because like, just a quickly backstory real quick, but you know, Coach Giles, God love that man. He's still here. I mean, he's still on this earth, by the way. But I'm thanking you, God, for Coach Giles.
Awesome.
But like, yeah, I mean, he's my basketball coach, and he's like, hey, you want to go to church? And I'm like, let's go. I don't even know what this is all about. And again, that's not to say anything bad about my parents. I had an amazing mother, amazing father. Man who raised me was great, but we just weren't going to church on Sundays. But he's like, hey, come with me to church. And I was like, all right, cool. And this is how new I was in it all. I'll never forget our first basketball practice. We were going to start with the Lord's Prayer. He's like, Stoltz, break us down, start us up with the Lord's Prayer. And I was like, God, thank you for my team. I hadn't even know what the Lord's Prayer was.
Yeah.
And so he was like,
You're
you want to go to church? I was like, yes, sir. But I mean, and then I went to, had some good Southern Baptist.
Coach Giles.
But yeah, so anyways, I was going to church with Coach Giles, and that was amazing. And I was all in 8th grade. I did get saved, and I was like, and I could feel it. Like, and it was different. Like, you're in that building and you can feel it. And like, none of that music, it's not like Highlands. I don't care what anybody says about Highlands. I love that type of music. That's my kind of worship music. So that gets me fired up. But, it wasn't, I wasn't feeling this. I wasn't nudged by somebody else or anything. I felt God like pushing me and calling me like, hey man, you're mine. Like, come on. Got saved, got baptized, and I was all in. Then get to high school and start getting interested in girls and, field parties and things like that. And I just spent so long walking away from them. And then I got to that point where I was like, I'm a mess. He probably doesn't want me. But I also looked at God as just this authoritarian because of how I viewed church back in the day. And that's not to say that I was church hurt per se. It was just, I was just given that hellfire and brimstone message. And I remember like some of the preachers at these churches, but I remember them specifically like looking at the youth group. They would look at the youth and be like, and all you are doing this on the weekends and you're doing that. And I'm like, oh God. And it's like, was he at that party?
Was he at the
And that was back before videos on.
What
Yeah,
were you doing there?
yeah, that was back before video on cell phone. So like,
Thank God.
we got away with a lot. But I mean, I always felt like he was talking to me, and I was just like, well, there's another Sunday, for sure going to hell now if I wasn't going last Sunday. So I just spent that long time of like, I'm a mess. He doesn't want me. There's so many people who are better than me. Then we get into like COVID, and I'm like, this is it. Everything was doom and gloom for so long. And I got caught up in stupid social media stories. I got caught up in all these things. And it's just like, oh, like this is how we're going out. And then, just fast forward a little bit, like I started cleaning up my life. I cut out alcohol, and I was like, all right. And I felt God calling me. I felt him nudging me. I had people in my life who were doing stuff for me. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's like, all right, I'm going to remove alcohol and see what that will do for my life. And that changed so much. I started to think clear, and I'm not judging anyone who drinks. I don't think there's anything wrong with drinking. I just took it took it from an A to a million, whatever. But then I started cleaning it up, and it's like, all right, I need to start lining back up with God. And then last July, I had my supernatural experience, and it was so real. And one of these days I will share it, like, super publicly. But I mean, it was real, and he is real, and it was as real as this 12-pound microphone right here. Like, it was so real, and I was like, I never doubted him, but I never felt that presence. I felt a physical hug, like just some giant man was just grabbing me and holding me. And I was like, this is the most bizarre thing I've ever felt in my life. But it was the most beautiful and the most peaceful thing. And just like you said, like I wanted to burst out a door like I was in a Disney, musical, like he is real. And yeah, and I'm so thankful for that, because that to me is like I will spend the rest of my life, and that's that's part of the reason behind this is like, guys, he's real. He's not some evil authoritarian figure with the clipboard just waiting for you to mess up. Like, he loves you and he wants you to come home, but he is disappointed whenever you act a donkey sometimes. Like, you don't get to skate by with doing what you did, like, and all. But I mean, I have this peace now of like, I'm back. And that's what I mean.
That's awesome.
We get pushed in different directions, whether it be, I hate to say a false prophet, but like, we just get stuck with some bad teachers sometimes. And the next thing you know, it's like, once you start to learn that he just really loves you and he really just wants you by his side, he doesn't need you to clean yourself up and then come to him. He needs you to come to him in the broken mess that you are. And that's what I was. I was a broken mess.
That's what's so great. He meets you where you're at.
Yeah. Well, he came down and hollered at me. And I was like, yes, sir. And I mean, from July of last year, I was like, I am forever yours. I am yours for the rest of my life, and I will serve you. Every cell in my body is his, and I will go to work for him until he calls me home, because I hate the misconception that I had for so long of like just trying to hide from him and the shame.
Yeah, you can't hide from him.
You ain't hiding from him.
You ain't hiding nothing.
You ain't hiding from him at all. And I think that's just been one of the most beautiful things about this. And like I keep repeating myself, but that's why I want to do this. You mentioned that podcast that you listened to that helped change you. Like, I pray God uses this. I mean, if it reaches one person and just shows them like, look, he's not sitting there shaking his head or shaking his fist at you. He's like, what are you doing? I mean, like,
he's like, hey, this would be a lot easier if you just turn to me.
Yeah.
Hey, I can make this way easier if you'll just come on.
Absolutely. And like, as a parent, you can relate, because you're just like, I look at my son and my daughter, and they're a gift from above, but it's like, we argue. And I'm like, why are you arguing with me? Like, I'm doing what's best for you. And I was like, no, you're not. I'm like, I promise I am. And then like, I'm like, sound like somebody?
I
Sounds
know.
like me to him.
God uses our kids to illustrate our relationship with him
My
all
goodness.
the time.
He has humbled me real quick. And those two little beautiful angels, but they're
You're
amazing.
telling me I have adult children now.
Aren't you?
I want them to go back to being little.
Yeah, I know.
No, I'm just saying I feel like adult children are harder than little children.
Don't tell me that.
Don't tell me that.
Yeah.
No.
No. I'm just, no.
She didn't mean it. We'll edit that out.
Look, okay, if you know anything about me, you know that I'm going to keep it real. I don't
I know.
lie.
But this is
I
one of
don't
those things where you
lie.
can
I
just-
don't sugarcoat, because how can I prepare you for your adult children if
kinda-
I don't tell you about
I
it?
kind of just like to learn as I go. So.
I'm just saying, right? Like,
Hands-on learner.
like
Yeah.
okay, like
Yeah.
So you can't tell him
I'm a
anything.
new grandparent. I'm a sassy now, right? So
That's the name you went with. I love
You're
it.
sassy.
my grandma name is Sassy.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much.
But
believe
so
she's a
like
sassy.
now I go to other people who have been grandparents for a while now, and I want them to share their wisdom with me, so I know how to properly be a grandparent, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm looking for people who've already been grandparents, and so I think like that's our next season in life too for Ryan and I, is that, hey, we've been living this adult children life. Now it's time to pour into other parents who are getting ready for their children to be adults. Like,
I think that's amazing.
It's amazing.
Until you're the one she's pouring into, and you're like, whoa.
Easy. That's a little too much pouring. No, but I think stuff like that's so important. Like, this past semester, like, started getting into like small groups and stuff at church. And man, I never even heard the word small group until I went to Highlands.
Now you have heard it 1,000, 1 million
Oh my gosh,
times.
a million. Hey, and I can't get enough. I mean, I'm co-leading one. I'm in two others. Like, I can't get enough of them. And they're just a range. They're a range of men who had the same misconception I did. Like, I did a freedom group. And it's been amazing. And that's what took me from thinking I'm in trouble, I'm never going to be good enough. Just like, no. Just surrender to him. He'll start fixing everything. And the freedom not to using a plug right there, but it really is. It's like it takes that bag of bricks off your back, and you're like, yeah, I'm messed up, but I am washed in the blood, and I'm good.
Well, he says,
and I'm not going back.
Yeah, he says to cast your cares and burdens onto him.
Well, he
Because
got a whole bushel.
he's the only one who can handle them.
Yeah, because I couldn't.
We can't.
You couldn't.
In this flesh, we can't. But we know the one who can.
Yeah. Well, that's why small groups are amazing. It reaches people at pivotal points in their life. You know, just all kinds of peer groups, young parents, new
We call them
parents.
life groups.
Yeah.
Yeah. Small
You just
group,
have to
life
find
group,
your people.
peer group.
Because
Because we're
Find your
doing
people.
life together.
It's surround like-minded people that you can do life with.
Yeah.
So
I haven't done any small groups because that requires me to do something alone.
No, hey,
we have one bone to pick with a small group because there is not a single small group that she and I can do together.
I mean, it's
either-
female only. You
Okay,
gotta
sorry, yeah.
elaborate.
I was
Sorry,
about to
sorry.
say, hang on.
Let me rephrase. Sorry.
I'm about to pull the app out.
sorry. My people is my husband and my best friend. And it's like, okay, I want one that we can do together. So when I said I meant including him. So there's either like couples, right? Or there's women's, or there's parents, which we're over here, you know, and there's like, we don't
have
make a
anything
crossroad. There is
together
no crossroads.
for all
hold
three.
on. Or the next
All
one.
three.
The next one is, I think this is a girls only, but it was still like 40 and under. And I was like, dang.
well, and under.
She's in, but I'm out. And I was like,
No, you're in. Oh, 40
No,
and
no,
under. It's like
it was
8U baseball.
No, 40 wasn't on it. It stopped at 39. I was
Yeah,
like, dang.
sorry, under 40
Well, yeah, you
is what I
can't.
meant.
Under
It was
40.
like,
And it was like college and 20s. And then they probably were like, okay, we'll let some 30s. And I'm like, I'm 40.
but see, I'm at
So
the top of that.
start one.
I know, we did. We talked about
We
it.
talked about that.
The other two, my other two people in my life, this one and the one I'm married to were like,
We are the same person.
they are the same
Me
person.
and her husband are the same.
But I'm telling you,
person.
listen,
They weren't ready to lead one, those two.
No.
And I'm not going to force that. You know, that's not, they weren't
we don't have to
called for
lead
that.
one.
I get
Well, if we were going to
nerdy.
start one, then they would be.
You lead. What'd you say?
I'd get nerdy. I'd bring my systematic theology textbook. I'd have all my Bibles. I'd have papers from.
You'd run everybody off in the first group.
I'd
I'm
be
not
like,
reading
this
that
shit
giant
is
book.
crazy.
I did. My husband and I went through the, I made him do the at least check the box of we could be leaders, like we did the training thing at church. And then Bo and Kylie had just taken on a role. And so I get a voice message from Bo that's like, hey, a little birdie told me that you and Michael want to lead a group. And I was
Yes.
like, I had to call him. I was like, so here's the thing. Michael does not. I do. I'm maybe, this is where we're at. So I'm not sure you can use us yet. The next day, I get Kylie that's like, hey, hey, girl, hey, do you want to be a co-leader with me? And so I was like, sure. So I dove right in with that, and she and I co-led a group this semester. So we got our feet wet. I am at least, starting, and that was an amazing just experience to get with this group of women and go through, a little small group. So
I'm gonna say something, and people might get offended or hurt or whatever, but
We're not soft here.
yeah, go for it.
so I am technically on staff at my church, right? I lead a college girl small group during the second service, and then Ryan and I co-lead the college group on Wednesday nights. All the other life groups that meet during the week or wherever, they kind of conflict with Ryan and I with our teaching schedule, right? And so it's hard for me to be a part of a life group at my church. But I have partnered with other women at other churches who happen to have life groups on days of the week where I'm not teaching. And I go and I meet with them.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it's a season in life right now. It doesn't mean it's going to be like that forever, but that's how it needs to work out right now. And God put me in a position because I got invited to co-lead worship at a women's event. And that's how I met these ladies. And then they're like, hey, we're starting a Bible study. Do you want to join us?
I think that should be the least offensive thing
And,
that
like-
anyone has ever said.
Yeah, I thought that was going somewhere totally different.
Well, I say that because sometimes
Yeah, no, I know
church
where,
gets to that point where, oh, you got to be loyal to your church. You can only go to your
Right.
church.
I
You
will
can
never.
only,
Never.
right?
No.
I will
and I
never.
am not
I'm loyal,
that.
I'm loyal to God.
we are,
Right?
we are
And
the
so
church.
my
Yeah.
thing is I'm like, yo, I don't follow religion. I follow Jesus.
Yeah.
So I do what God calls me to do. And if he called me to connect with a group of women at another church for this season in my life, then that is what I'm going to do.
Right, for sure.
So I said that because I don't know who listens, and
Sure.
I just need to clarify that, hey, it's okay.
You can find
Like,
so we made
it's
our own.
okay
Yeah.
if you-
so it's like
you
we
know.
made our own. We're like, we'll do our
Yeah.
own Bible study. We'll
Yeah.
find it.
like, it's okay to branch out.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's okay to find other lovers of Jesus.
I feel the most, I don't know, revelation, spiritual presence and everything when I'm solo with my Bible. I'm not saying that you don't need church, because you need community, you need your fellowship in that way, but with my past, I will never say that I'll stick to one church.
Right.
Like, joining a church to me is like don't say that to me. I ain't a member of nothing but Jesus' church, okay?
Big C church.
Big C. But yeah.
Well, I still joined my church, but that was something
I know-
that was something God convicted me of, right? But
One thing I do, since you're already about small groups and life groups inside your church or out of it, one thing I do want to challenge you to do is, I mean, I know that you're an introvert and I respect that, but I got motivated. I got pushed into that freedom group that I did, and I won't say I went kicking and screaming, but I was like, man, I'm going into this group with a bunch of men ages 30, mid to late 30s to like mid to early 60s. I believe that was the range. I had no homies. I had nothing. I was walking in there, and we sit at this big table, and I'm just like, didn't know a soul. And I was like, what am I going to do? I'm in here 12 weeks with these cats. I got to open up to them at some point. Like, I'm not all about this. But I do want to encourage you, because I did it, and it changed my life, man. Reason why I'm encouraging you, but yeah, well, I was just going to say, because
go ahead.
I know that you've had people who've changed your life. So I say that to say that those 10, 11 men that were in there, but in some way, shape, or form, they all had such an amazing impact on me and how to view my relationship with God, because I was, like I said, I was viewing it all wrong. And one of the other guys in that group, I mean, the men were just the vessel.
Yeah.
The God and the Holy Spirit were, at work. But another one of the men in that group had no real Christian church background, anything. Actually has a pretty rough story, growing up to listen to. But he went from he's probably real, but hopefully I'll just get to heaven by being a decent person, to having a dream. And his dream woke him up, and it was God talking to him in his dream. And next thing you know, he went from this person to going through the freedom group and gave his life to Christ and got baptized. And stuff like so.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure you were instrumental in as well. God used you in that group as well. So you weren't just there to receive. I'm sure your input God could use to the other 12 that you said as well. You know what I mean? It's like, who knows what God will use what you have to say for someone else.
That's
Yeah.
that's what I want to dive into that a little bit too, because so I told you I've been going to my church for 15 years, something like that. Well, 15 years ago, we did not have as many life groups as we do now. Okay, like we just didn't. So it was either you went or you didn't, right? But the life group that I went to was a mixed adult life group. Okay. There was no label. There was no you had to be married or you had to be single or you had to be of this age or whatever. It was just mixed adults. Whatever walk of life you're in, come join us. We're studying the Bible together and we're hanging out. And it was one of my most favorite life groups ever. And I'm like, why don't we go back to this? But we used to meet on Friday nights. And I told y'all before, Ryan was always working, so it was typically just me and the kids, right? Y'all, this life group allowed me to bring my kids with me to life group every week. And there were some younger people there, younger single people there. I was the in-between younger parent, and then there were older parents, and then you had older people who either their kids were grown or just people without kids. So you had all walks of life in this life group, okay? The youth kids would be there, like the other teenagers that came with their parents. They would take the younger kids and go play with them while we did the Bible study. And so we were all there together, and we would all take turns at our houses. And we were just doing life together. But the cool thing about it was because it was mixed adults. You had older people who were pouring into younger people. It was just you could see the generations. You had your teenagers taking care of the little ones, right? And then you had people like me who could pour into those teenagers. And then you had the older people there who could pour into me. At any given moment, you were either in the teaching position or you were in the student position. So we were very much Paul and Timothy. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that's what life groups should look like.
I love that.
Stop putting labels on life groups.
Well, and I think
Just go.
I'm with you. I don't think you necessarily have to put a label on it, but I think for some people it opens up them to doing it because it's like there's a commonality here.
Yep.
You should. I mean, some of the life groups, the titles are there's one who like to go to like Topgolf.
Yeah,
They all
there's
have
sports, there's pickleball.
It's just encouragement to hang with like-minded.
it's like,
fine.
but I mean,
it's fine.
But that's
hobby.
fine. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, but I'm totally with you. Like I love that concept because I mean, again, that's that community, and that's just not only like Christian or like godly wisdom, but also life wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And from the generation older than you that you're passing down. Like that's one thing that eventually, I've said multiple times I want to get into ministry work, but one of the places I'd love to work with people on is younger adult men, like, that kind of high school, early college age, because I feel like, and again, this is not a shot at my family whatsoever, but I feel like that's where the wheels fell off for me.
Me too. I mean, it's the same age
Yeah.
for where I stopped attending regularly.
Yes.
And so
exactly.
it's like you lose that.
I got a car and then I stopped going.
Yeah, it's like you lose that. I mean, I moved out. I moved out of my parents' house. I moved to a different town. Yeah, and
It's
so you
the age of
lose your-
accountability.
Yeah, so and you lose
And I
your
had none.
group. And did you know that there was Highlands in Auburn when we were in Auburn? We just
Ouch.
didn't know.
That stinks.
I
I
know.
worked
You know
at
how
Highlands,
awesome it
but
would have been to go?
I worked at Highlands the bar.
Not the same one.
Not the same one. I mentioned that in my other small group, and I was like, "Yeah, I lived in Auburn. I worked at Highlands." They were like, "Oh, that's amazing." I was like, I worked at the bar. I was a bouncer. I was a bouncer at the bar, not the church. I should have been in church.
Should have been in church.
But that's where I want to pour into people because
Yeah.
like you were just telling a beautiful story about somebody who poured into you and it changed your life, and that's kind of where like
I think you need to also though be aware. This is a quote I heard one time. I could not tell you where I heard this. Somebody say this. You cannot change anyone's testimony. Technically, they said you can't change your child's testimony. And that is something that is so incredibly true of you can't change their story. If you had known that there was a Highlands church in Auburn, like you were just saying, you don't know that you'd have gone.
Right.
But I know I've had to go through what I've gone through so that it can be used in whatever way he sees fit. So understanding that those moments in life of our bar hopping, working,
Rumspringa.
Rumspringas, okay,
I like how we messed that.
they give you.
Well,
this
we
is not
have
to encourage.
we have free will.
I know what
Yes,
you're. I know what you're
yes.
saying.
I'm not
though.
We have
encouraging-
free will, and so God will allow us to make choices for ourselves, right? But in the end, we will still end up where He predestined us to be in the first place. It's just a matter of how you get there.
He accounts for our stupidity.
Are you gonna get there? Are you gonna get there on the path that He originally laid out for you? Or are you gonna do it your way? Like His path is straight. Your path of going yourself is like
I'm gonna climb a few mountains.
like you're all over the
can
place.
do it.
Fall off the mountain.
But
climb
the
back up
end
the mountain.
result is you still end up where He wanted you to be all along. It's just, how did you get there?
So and what I was thinking is like, while it's not encouraged to make Rumspringa choices or delve into that part of life, it at the same time I can relate to people who do the same or have been in the same positions or have experienced the same struggles and turmoils, because God needs people that can relate to those people, right? And can make you feel, hey, I did that too. You're okay. You know,
Right.
or I went there too, and this is how I got through it, and maybe I can help and whatever.
Well,
Or
because
just
there's
how-
that misconception that because you're a Christian that you're perfect and you do everything right.
Right.
No, you're not.
friend.
No, you're not.
Well, and just like you said, I think if somebody can ever hit you with like, well, you just wouldn't understand. It's like,
Oh, but I
oh,
will.
buddy, I've got the T-shirt. Like, I think that's like you said, because there are so many people. There's this amazing, God-loving couple that I know, and I'll, out of respect for them, I won't say their names, but they've been good since day one. Mm-hmm. They don't get me wrong, they've sinned, but like their sins would be like G-rated sins compared to mine.
They
Like
gossip about their neighbor.
they are amazing. Yes, exactly. They gossip, or they might. Yeah, there's no
Something.
telling, but it's so minor compared to me. But like they lost a child. They lost a child at within a few weeks of birth, and it's like, man, and so I just say that to say like, there's these people that on the outside and inside, they're beautiful, but like they still have a story, and they still have a real suck story that somebody probably will need to hear.
Yep.
And it's like, why did this happen to me? I've been arrested. I've been broke. I've been depressed. I've been suicidal. Like I've got a laundry list just like everybody in this room does. But part of that in me is probably going to come up somewhere in conversation with somebody that's like, well, man, you wouldn't understand. It's like, hey, man, when I was 32, I went through this and hardest part of my life. And they'll be like, all right, now I can relate. And now I can talk to you because we're somewhat relatable.
Yep. Ours may have been poor choices and questionable paths here and there, but others have pain of sorrow that they've gone through, of loss, or some other kind of struggle that wasn't choice, but it was just placed on it. They were just put in it, and coming through it is their strength story. And then you have those that like you said, born and raised in it, and you've always had that love, you've always had that belief, you've always had that. I don't want to discredit that at all, because there are plenty out there who are like, had it pretty good.
Yeah.
I can't complain. And I'm like,
Elizabeth.
great, fantastic, because there are people like that who you want to be able to lean on because they have that lifelong, to just be another fellow person around. Right. I fully believe that there are probably plenty of people who've not had a lot of struggle, but simply were just given the desire to know it all and be able to teach it. So that every facet of life has something to offer. Every facet of life, God uses it. Like He's like, hey, you made really poor choices. Remember how that felt? I'm going to let you use it over here with these 20-year-olds that you want to connect with. But at the same time, that comes back to just being able to know that you can't change their story either. They may still make the choices. They may still fall away. They may fight you over your belief, but keep the calm and just keep being a light of Christ, because it'll hit later.
Well, we
Right.
said this earlier. God met us all where we were at. And so that is definitely an approach that I like to take with people. I'm going to meet you where you're at. I'm not judging you for where you are, but I want to meet you where you're at, and I want to come alongside you, and I want to point you to Jesus, and I want to help you through whatever it is that you're going through, because that's what I needed.
Right.
And that's what God did for me. So now I want to go and do that for somebody else. So you meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
That is...
I mean, like for me, like I mentioned, I started cleaning my life up to a certain degree like 4 years ago, but it was just, it was taking out drinking. That was tough because everyone around me still did it. And again, I don't judge. Let me preface that. I just didn't have a healthy relationship, but people were still drinking around me, and that was all right. And I was like, all right, I'm on the right track. I'm getting there. And then it was like other little changes. It was like what I was watching on TV, or it was what I was listening to on the radio. I've taken my daughter, and I will apologize for this for a long time. I've taken my daughter to some questionable concerts, and I am not proud of it. But I was real big into heavy metal. I still love it. I've actually thankfully found there is Christian heavy metal.
Red.
Doesn't quite slap the same, but I'd rather be right up there.
You need to look up Red.
But yeah, it's like I started doing these little baby steps, and talking about where he meets you, where he wants to meet you, where you're supposed to be. But like when the Huntsville campus opened up, like some of my closest friends, like family, they invited me to that one. And I've never been a church person. I really haven't. I tried. I wasn't. I go over there. And like I said, like, I'm cleaning my life up. I'm reading my Bible because I want to. I'm attending that church. And I'm like, we're good. I'm home, Daddy. Like, and then July happened.
Right.
So that's what I'll just never be able to get over. And like I said, I was never sitting there, God, if you're real, prove it. I wasn't praying for a miracle. I didn't have a sick baby. My marriage wasn't on the rocks. Nothing. I was attending church, loved it every Sunday, thought I was back on the right track. And all of a sudden he's like, hey man, I got to talk to you real quick. Don't know why, but he woke me up. He woke you up, and he woke you up, and he woke you up at whenever he needed to.
Mm-hmm. Complacency can be a sin too.
Right.
Well, yeah, and don't get me wrong. I wasn't complacent. I knew I had a lot of work to still do,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, but I was just so happy because, like I said, I mean, I was on the right track. I mean, I stopped cussing, and that again, that sounds so like kind of PG, but at the end of the day, like, I even stopped doing that, and didn't used to be me, but everything I felt was taking every little step in the right direction, and I don't know, so.
He needed to see you make the effort before he really slapped you into reality.
Oh man, he slapped me. he slapped me hard, but man, he's, like I said,
Get to work.
He's got me for the rest of my life on this earth. I can promise you that.
I think he's also waiting for our obedience. He needs to see you be obedient to this first before I can take you to the next thing. Like, he had put college and young adult ministry on my heart 2 years before I was ever given an opportunity to be a part of that ministry. There's not a need at our church for that right now. Like, we have leaders, like all that. So I'm like, I don't understand. And so I prayed over it for 2 years.
Well,
Because I'm like, I don't know what to do with this, Lord. I'm like, I know you put it on my heart, but I don't know what to do with this. So I'm just going to keep praying about it. And then 2 years later, Ryan and I get asked if we would lead the, college and young adult group. So I'm like, God prepared me for that for 2 years.
well, that's one thing I've realized reading the Bible stuff. God takes his time sometimes on getting you from point A to point B.
Well, but it's also our obedience. What steps was I taking to prepare myself to receive that calling, right? And so it took 2 years of me learning and growing to prepare for that position, right? So God had to do a work in me first before I could be prepared to even lead this group.
I'm in the learning and preparing because last July, I found Pastor Allen at church and I was like, hey, don't know what happened, but I need to be a preacher. And he's like, what? And I'm like, I know, I don't know. But
Like tomorrow.
yeah.
I'm just saying,
what
like,
do I do?
sometimes the
do you
delay.
do you just give me a microphone? Do I just start talking to people? How does this work?
Sometimes the delay is me, not God, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah, man. Well, yeah, I mean,
Sometimes the delay is God. Hold up.
yeah. He's like, whoa,
Let's
guy.
learn a little bit more.
So hang on, you're taking this way too far, way too quick.
Yeah.
I'm glad you listened, but wait.
Yeah.
I have more lessons
Yeah.
to teach
So
you.
like I said, and I need those stories because that's what people keep relaying to me. It's like, listen, man, it's not your time. It's not on your time, and it's not on your time.
Right.
He will let you know when he wants you, and until
Yeah.
then, he will keep doing little things to prepare you. Because I was ready to stand up there and just start telling everybody Jesus is real, and God is real. And I didn't have any notes, but I was like, He's real. What do I do? He's like,
What else is there to
calm
say?
down and pray. And I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like that idea
I need
whatsoever.
an actionable item of,
Yeah,
of
it's
moving
like
forward.
I
need
feel
to-
like that's a little too slow paced
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
And thankfully, you
He
guys have
gave-
known me for a long time. Like, I'm a very reactionary person, so it's
Yeah.
like I overshot that one though.
Well, but I think that's a natural response to when you first meet Jesus, because I felt that way too. I was like, put me in, coach.
Yeah,
Where do you want me?
Where do you
what do you
want
want me
me?
to do? Yes, I will do all the things. I will
Yeah,
do all the
I'll do
things.
it all.
He's like,
Yeah.
learn the playbook, please.
Yeah.
learn that's really good. Learn the plays.
So it started. So again, it was very much one of those where you got to grab your kid by the shirt and be like, slow down,
Easy, buddy.
slow down. So like for me, it was like, okay, well, I'll start by being a greeter on Sunday mornings and passing out bulletins. I can do that. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, Lord, I've been doing this for a while. Now what? And he's like, well, I know you've always had a passion for music. Won't you go join the praise team? I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay.
I can do that.
Will do.
Yeah, right. And then
She
and
did
then
not
like,
call me for that
oh,
one.
but again, and the way that I got into children's ministry, right, was like, I'm going to go observe and see what my kids are learning. And that turned into, hey, why don't you come teach with me on Sunday nights with the kids? Like, okay.
Yeah.
And then when you do that for a few years, I was like, all right, Lord, what's next? He's like, well, now start pouring into the youth. Okay. Did that for several years. And now he's like, now go pour into college and young adults. Yes, Lord.
That's to me.
And now we're in a new season to where we're about to step out and move. And I'm like, what are we doing?
Yes,
Yeah.
What? I'm like, Lord, what am I going to do? But the crazy thing was, like, when we went to Texas to go figure out where we're going to live, we went to visit a church. You know, we met the pastor and talked to them and everything. And, you know, he asked about our story and how we got there and all the things. And we tell him. And he just looks at us and he's like, wow, what a story. And then he said, our young adult leaders just left to Oregon.
All right.
Okay, God.
Won't he do it?
And I was like,
What do
I
you
just
know?
looked up and I laughed, and then I looked at Ryan, and then Ryan and I laughed, and I'm like, we're gonna pray about it, okay? We're
Yeah.
like, we're gonna pray about it. Like, just because there is an opportunity doesn't necessarily mean that that's what God says. Like, right? Like, it, to me, I never want to make a quick decision, like, just because it is something that we enjoy doing. And, you know, we want to continue teaching. And yes, there is an opportunity. But I'm like, I need God's stamp of approval first. It feels good to me right now to hear him tell me that, hey, well, you can do this here.
Right.
Like, right.
Don't trust your heart, trust
Yes.
God.
It
Yeah.
feels good to me to hear that. But is that really what God wants for me? And so to me, it was just okay, there is an opportunity there. Let me pray about it and let me see what God says.
Yeah. We were doing a little Bible study last night, and she brought her stuff over. We were just like, let's get,
My backpack.
her backpack full of books.
Do you have your big book?
Not that one.
Not that one. I didn't bring that one.
But, you know, she just like, we're like, we're going to put a little extra Jesus in before we go do this podcast in the morning. And so she grabs this devotional and just kind of flips through.
Well, I've opened to
Like-
the one that was actually next for me to do. It's
Okay.
a Bible study book, Finding Your Worth in Christ. So, and yeah, the one that we came to, oh my gosh. It was
like-
basically you're renewing.
Yeah, and it's just like, read these scriptures. So I grab the Bible and I'm reading the scriptures, and it's like, be an ambassador for Christ. Go tell people about Christ. Go. And we're just looking at each other and we're like,
It was
okay,
literally
touche.
Yeah.
Well played.
Uh-huh.
It's
Dude,
just like so perfectly. It's just like, let me set it up.
Yep.
And we're like,
Yep.
okay.
It's
We see it. We think we feel you. Thank you.
I hear you, yeah.
I hear you.
it's really fun to look at the baby steps that have happened and just like the little pieces that get put into place to guide you where he wants you, you know? I look back at everything, at every step of this journey that started when I said, okay, I need to get back with Jesus, right, in my mind. And every little step is such a God move, because from going back to that church, then the depression happened, and then when I went to the doctor, God allowed these things to happen because it was pushing me without taking the ground out from under me, right? And so it just led me bit by bit to now being where I am.
it's like
I mean,
breadcrumbs.
Yeah, like, okay, you like psychology, here, dig into that. Learn how to deconstruct that subconscious so you can do your thing, you know? Like, learn how to deprogram your mind so that you can build your knowledge and your foundation. And then the building opened, and I'm like, oh, look, friends that go to church. And then finding out that my family had been praying our whole lives for just something to move. All of these little things, Jilly praying over, and then my sister, everything I went through, everything I dealt with, and that relief I felt helped her, because she was the opposite of me. She was proud of it. She was like, yeah, this is right. This is, you know.
She always felt fine with it. Yeah.
Right. She was good with it. So me being there for her to be able to help ground her and see logic and reason behind
Because she was hurt.
all that. She was hurt.
Where
She was
you
angry.
where you laughed and had relief, she felt anger
She was
and
blindsided.
disappointment, and yeah,
Yeah.
you
And
were
I
like,
could,
oh, I knew it.
and if I had not had relief, if I had not felt that way, I could have ended up like a lot who end up atheist or agnostic because
Right.
they're just angry and they don't believe anything anymore.
Right. Thank God for the
That's what bothers
foundation
me.
that you had. For sure.
And you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
All right. So, yeah, so you had mentioned people being, finding out something about their church or that didn't turn out to be true. And, we have a common friend that has happened to. And, it's somebody that I think about and pray about a lot. Like, another reason why this is so important to me is because people who maybe were in a certain type of religion that they thought was focusing on God or focusing on Jesus, but had it completely different. Like, I wish people would kind of go back to the original, the Bible. And, in my opinion, I think people should maybe start asking questions. It's like, all right, my religion or this is based loosely on an interpretation of the Bible or something that somebody else picked up or received, but the Bible was the beginning.
Basically, you want them to say, okay, start back where that started to separate from the Bible.
Yes.
And go from, like, start back there.
Man, yeah.
And see how that transpired. Because that's what all those, like, those letters and that research opened up for me was seeing how this even came about. And holy cow, that's the most eye-opening thing in the world to see. Oh, that's why it's so far off. That's why it's not the same. And it is the most conniving way that Satan moves in the sense of he takes truth, right? He takes truth and tries to create this whole
lies into the truth of God's word.
But in this situation, it's woven into a group of people who feel and truly believe that they believe the same thing with just so close. More. Like, how do you reach people who feel that they have Jesus and don't need anymore? Like that, like, oh, I have it. And it's like, but you don't. If you'll just go back to the Bible, start back where it all started. Even if it, like, get a red letter Bible and just read what Jesus said.
Man, somebody said that the other day about that. Just read what Jesus said.
Just read what Jesus said. Jesus had plenty to say that goes against XYZ over here. Just go back to that. It's so frustrating that is such a powerful tool of Satan's, is to take the truth and just to find someone to weave in these lies and to pull you away. And you don't even, you think you're still on it. You think you're still on the path. And those that come away learning that it was all made up or whatever the case may be,
Then
they
just
go
shut it down completely.
well, they shut it down because, like our friend,
Yeah.
they don't trust themselves. They can't trust themselves anymore because they're like, well, but I felt
I was
called
deceived
to this.
once.
Right, and I felt called to this, even though it's like, okay,
And I felt
but
God, and I felt the Holy Spirit, and I felt all
and I
these
tried to
things.
explain to them as well. I'm like, yes, but if you hadn't, your spouse and children would still be in it. If you hadn't been led there and then led to researching and then pulling out, they would still be in it. So you literally were a
tool.
used as a tool, but they don't want to see it that way because it's the anger of just feeling like it's all a game or it's all a joke or whatever. It's so frustrating to see those sides of it because you're like, no.
Oh, I know. And I think that's one of the things I have been praying so hard for. Like, up until last year, I never even really heard the word discernment. And man, that is like, I pray for that gift. And like where you are somebody who will receive something because to me, like if I went to Texas and I spoke with those people at church and they were like, hey, here's a golden opportunity to be like, my man, where do I sign? And you're like, let me pray about it.
Let me just
Yeah. And
slow
like,
down.
that's because that's how I've lived my life for so long is, like I said, I am a stereotypical prodigal son, if I may. I was with God, walked away for a long time, went on my own path, but he still kept me alive and he still kept me safe. And then he let me come back home. But the whole entire time, I always almost had this intuition, and I fully believe it was God and the Holy Spirit just being like, hey, it's going to be all right. You're broke. It's going to be okay. You're depressed. It's going to be okay. And to me, I'm when I said earlier, like I'm a reactionary, like I'm just quick to react. Like that's where I need that gift of discernment. Cause and I think too, that would help out so many people. I just pray like, hey, is this really coming from you? And like you said, dive into the Bible, but the Bible, like go to the Bible.
Right.
And
if that's too hard, go to what Jesus said, because it's just like you can even deconstruct it down one more. That's where I have struggled, because I don't read it. It's not an easy read for me.
yeah.
Because I don't know the context. And so I remember learning, I was way too many days old when I learned that the Gospels were the same story. Just told by 4 different perspectives.
You weren't too old, man.
I was like today years old when I learned that, and I'm like, why did I have been in church my whole life, and I had never heard that. No one had ever said that.
Different lenses.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was just like, oh. So, I mean, that is a very basic example of how I don't know enough
Yeah.
about it. I don't know the context to even know that the 4 Gospels are the same story, just told by 4 different people.
4 different POVs.
Well, I mean, I grew up and we carried the Bible with the Book of Mormon.
Right. It's like attached.
But it was always preached to just read the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
And now I see why.
Yeah.
They'll take things out, they'll be like, oh, but this scripture in Isaiah, and they'll take things out that feed
They'll use
into, but now that I know all the history, it makes sense. But anyway, carried it my whole life. But it was never something I delved into and read. Because if I'd read John, it would have been, hello.
You would have undone everything.
Everything different. I'm confused.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say is my favorite Bible that I've had so far is the Jesus Bible. It's an NIV version, but it's the Jesus Bible, and basically it's they took every chapter of every book and they give you little examples of this is how this is leading to Jesus. This is how this is connecting, and they just right before the book starts, you read what the book is about, who it's to, when it happened, all that kind of stuff, and then in every little area, they have little synopsis on the side, just giving you a 411 of this is how this relates. This is what this means, and it's amazing.
Even your standard Bible, like just any Bible. Okay,
the
like
footnotes.
For example, the footnotes. You can be in the New Testament. There's going to be footnotes down here that will take you to the Old Testament that will show you where he's been at work all along.
It's the stuff that's amazing. Like I'm thankful for the Highlands app, because reading the Bible is daunting. And I'm thankful because but I do now.
No, I know.
You
and
I
love
are
it.
watching the Bible Project videos.
Yeah, I'm like, yes, 13 minutes.
I love those things.
I love
Those are so good. I know.
Applause
now I
to
know
Tim
the
Mackey.
timeline.
What
I'm
a guy.
I got
And
it.
the other guy.
She's over here with her theology book.
Yes. No.
We are not the same. We are
I'm
not
a
the
pictures
same.
person.
Yeah. See, I like
But that's
the
why I
little
love
videos.
the app, because it's like you get some Old Testament, which in no disrespect, that the Old Testament's hard. And, I'm a New Testament guy.
Yeah.
That's just me. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. But it's like you get a little Old Testament, you get some New Testament, some Proverbs, some Psalms, and you go. And it's like, I got my, I feel fueled up. I feel, I've learned something. And also, to those that don't know, the Old Testament is full of action.
I'm
Like, man, I've
y'all
read
watch
stories on
these
the edge of my
Netflix
seat.
dramas. Y'all need to be reading the Old Testament.
Yeah,
Right.
it's so good.
Oh, I know.
though.
Well, I did watch A House of David. I have not done any research on
Oh my
how
gosh,
much it
I
lines
love
up.
it.
House of David's awesome.
I love it.
It's really
You said
good.
it was like a decent, right?
Oh
A
yeah,
little
yeah.
Hollywood,
I mean,
but-
they put some
Surely it's some
extra
Hollywood.
to it.
Yeah.
You kind of. I mean, they even tell you that. In
That's
the
just like
beginning.
The
There's some
Chosen.
theatrical.
Yeah.
There's
some theatrical
additions,
things in there.
but it's so good, and I'm so ready for the.
But I'm
next-
just like, y'all, the Old Testament is wild.
It is.
It is
it's
wild.
So
It's wild.
I saw a Christian comedian that was like, I don't know how this is going to go when we get up to heaven and we meet Christians from Old Testament who are like, I sacrificed my firstborn child to be here. And we're like, I gave up chocolate on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
He's like, we need to do better.
21 days of prayer. I'm going to stop eating Brussels sprouts. Yeah. Oh, I know, man. The Old Testament, and also, too,
they had
it
it harder,
really
man.
makes you realize
That
how
Moses
far
law.
we've come.
Oh, man.
And I don't mean it in a good way.
No,
Yeah.
thank Jesus for all of it, for real.
Well,
But also, we are so weak.
we are. And I think about that
weak.
all the time, and I could be totally wrong, but I think about that, how, I just imagine God creating us and then being like, geez, these people are just, what are they doing? All right, flood.
Yeah.
And it's just like, all right, they're not going to get it right, so I'm going to send my son. It's like, because they're never going to get it right.
I saw that too, where it's like God, God's perspective. It's like, look I made man, my greatest creation ever. And an angel's like, yeah, they're great. And then it goes back to God and goes, I'm going to kill them. And the angel says, oh, thank God.
Look, man, we're a bunch of flawed creatures.
Sorry, we are not great at this.
No.
I often think about Lot's wife.
Yeah.
She just longed, just that one look back and desiring her old life, and
Done.
See, and that's where I feel like the sanctification process is real, and really giving your life back to God this time is really real. And that's not to take away from what I did in 8th grade, because it was, at that moment, it was real.
It was, yeah,
But it
absolutely.
was a very safe Hazel Green, Alabama. My biggest trials and tribulations at the time was if I was going to get the shoes I wanted for school,
That was your he's real moment.
yeah.
Everything else led you to the, I'm living for you moment.
And those
Absolutely.
and those are two different things.
And like you said, with Lot's wife, you look at it, it's like, I'm not about this world anymore. I'm here, and I'm going to do whatever he wants me to do while I'm here. But
there's no turning back.
no, for the rest of my time, I want to serve him. I don't want to get into any foolishness. I don't want to disappoint him any more than I already have. But we're right again. And I'm done living for this world. I'm still living in the world,
Right.
but not of all the things
not
that.
of
It's like
the world.
Yeah,
the
you're living
salvation.
in the world, but you're not. You're not of the
I'm
world.
not of the world. I'm not trying to be some big shot realtor. I'm not trying to do this. I'm not trying to listen to that. I'm not trying to watch this anymore. And again, that's not to make myself sound super righteous. It's just like, people need to understand, like, he is so real.
Well, it's a
And you
sanctification
really let him in. Yeah.
process. Right?
You let him in and he'll start working.
You feel conviction to the things that you're watching and you're listening to, and that conviction is drawing you to change. And that's the new life that you have been born into by following Christ. What goes down in the wells, what comes up in the bucket? What are you putting in?
Get it, girl. I've been convicted a lot. But now, thankfully,
On the daily, I feel convicted.
I have PG-13 convictions now. I have maybe G-rated convictions. Like this morning, I was trying to get my kids to school, and there was this, I'm sure was a sweet old man. But I was on his butt a little bit. Not proud of it. But he wasn't even going the speed limit. So, now I'm just like, and my daughter, he got away. He moved over to the side. He moved over to the side, and he just did this to me, and I waved. Yeah. There were no birds, there were no cuss words, and my daughter was like, Dad, he was an old man. I said, honey, I didn't say anything mean, I didn't say anything bad, but we had 2 minutes to get to school. A few years ago, Adam might have been a little different, and I might have handled it a little less Christian-y, so I am thankful for the process.
That is still my worldly downfall.
I'm pretty sure I cussed a few times on the way here.
She's like, we are never meeting in downtown again.
Ever.
Where are we? I couldn't even park.
Yeah. But I think road rage will always be one of my struggles. But I never do it to their face. I'm never the one that's going to be like, whatever. But in my car, I'm like,
Here's what'll really get you. Is like, it's not always conviction. He doesn't always just come straight from him, but he'll use your toddler. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I say toddler, she's 6, but she's like, come on, or something in the back seat. I'm like, oh,
my sister's like,
she is me reincarnated.
I know where she got
Yeah.
that from.
That's a bad driver, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, they just slowed down. They're not they didn't do anything wrong. They just braked in the left lane.
Yeah. Sadie, watch your tablet.
Have some patience.
It's like when they're little and they're doing dangerous things and you're like, please stop so you won't die. But then I'll be with Jesus.
Yeah.
She said that the other day. That is one of the hardest ones for me. It just because it hits me in all the mom, I don't know, spirit, body, soul, all the things. She's like, Mama. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like pumping gas. She's like, I can't wait to die.
Oh, no.
I know. And I'm like, you just go straight to like, oh. But this is not the first time she said it. And so I already knew where she was going. And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, then I get to be with God and Jesus. And I'm like, that will be so amazing once we're with God and Jesus. And everything inside me is like, no.
Yeah. 100 years from now.
Yeah. But I can't also downplay her entirely true, pure perspective
Oh, I know.
of how she is legitimately excited to meet God and Jesus and be in their presence. And so I don't want to squash that.
No.
But I'm like, but he put you here for a reason. You have a purpose. So you have to figure out what that is first. And I'm just like, oh, give me the words, give me the words, give me the words.
Oh, yeah.
Don't
And then
let
you're
me
like,
mess
just
this up.
please
Like,
let me go first. Please let
every
me go
day-
first.
I'm like, no, just please don't let me break her sweet little spirit
Yeah.
for what is totally pure of her wanting to know you.
Yeah.
And then the next sentence out of her mouth was, I want to be baptized. And I was like, okay, baby.
I want you to,
Well, but it's
just
okay
like,
to
that's
tell her,
so
like,
cute.
hey, but you're here.
Yeah.
And you're alive and you're breathing. And if we're here, if we're still here, then God's not done with us.
That's it. Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's kind of what he
He's
gave
not done
me.
with
Because I
us.
literally was praying in my head, give me some words.
Another thing I love, man, I think right now there's just some big movement.
It's become, I don't know if it's just because, I mean, social media has been around since high school, basically. MySpace. But
I didn't get that until I didn't have that in high school. Yeah.
MySpace, it wasn't high school.
No, maybe MySpace was.
It was
Facebook.
Facebook was the .edu.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you had to have
a
the
college.
.edu.
I was a
Email.
sophomore in college when Facebook came out.
Man.
The Facebook.
I had a MySpace.
I had a MySpace.
Oh, I had a MySpace. You could get a song and
AOL chat.
Rate your friends.
yeah, the top tens or whatever.
It's like, you
was
think
so
we are
real.
hard. She's like, it was out there for everybody. Oh, this friend dropped
Oh,
them
I
down in the
dropped-
category today.
Okay.
I never posted anything.
Mine is probably still over there playing Death Cab for Cutie somewhere out in the world.
I wish I could log back into mine.
I know, right?
Sorry, Whit.
I know, you're fine. But with social media stuff, I don't know if it's just that we're more aware, but I truly feel like worldwide there has been a move. There's been a movement.
I feel it. I
Christ-centered
agree.
movement that is just the awakening, year of the awakening that was last year is what they kept calling it. And a lot of people were like reawakening to their desire for Jesus and their love for that or their new knowledge of in a lot of ways. And I keep hearing about it more and more, just things that are happening on like, on your pace, right? Things are just in motion.
It can't just be that my algorithm changed.
No,
Right. It can't just be that I started listening to a couple of different videos because it really is everywhere and in everything. We were talking about it last night.
I wish I could find the video, but it said something like a very large percentage of young adults, and I mean young adults like high school and college, are all about Jesus, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And like last year, those videos that were floating around, like
in Kentucky
the Ohio State.
Revival.
The Ohio State football team, when they were, oh my gosh, look it up. It'll bring tears to your eyes. But like these amazing national champion, before they won the national championship, but these amazing men were like openly giving their life to Christ. And there were thousands of college students around them. And the Ohio State football team, maybe not all of them, but a majority of them were getting baptized. And had this, they were professing their faith, and then students were doing it. And it's just like,
It's a huge move.
that's the purpose of this, is like God use us as a vessel, but like, man, the more people you can reach. Oh man. And it's like, it just, I want it to spread like wildfire, man. Somebody hit me with something the other day, and he was like, man, could you imagine if 50% of the population acted 50% as good as Jesus did? And I'm just like, oh. Well, he's like, make it lower than that. 30% of the population acted 30% as good as
What
Jesus
a
did.
drastic difference.
It's like,
it would
man, what a
make in this
drastic
world.
difference.
It's funny. I chaperone youth camp trips quite a bit, and on one of these trips, you know, you meet other people from other churches. Of course, there was an older gentleman chaperoning for another church, and he was just like, these kids and their phones and rah, rah, don't like social media, rah, rah.
Yeah.
So, you know, my rebuttal to him was, is social media the best thing for us? Probably not. Is it going away? Probably
Definitely
not.
Right.
So why not use it to reach more people for the kingdom?
Yeah. Use it for good, man.
So I want to try to combat all the evil that's on it, and let's put something good on there, because they're going to be on it no matter what.
Well, in the same respect, I mean, religion, right? Its basis is to bring you to Jesus, but it can actually be used by whatever to deter
evil
you,
forces
because
are
it
at
will
work.
separate you, right? And that's religion. That's not Jesus. That's just religion. That's
Yeah.
somebody's belief differing from someone else's. It will create a divide. It will create that animosity between two types that puts a bad taste in people's mouths. It's the same with social media. You know, it can be used for good. It can be used for bad.
That's why
Put
I
out
say
there what
I
you
don't
want it to
follow
be
a
used for.
religion. I follow Jesus.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
You're not going to separate me from my relationship with Jesus.
I didn't know you were religious. I'm like, I'm not.
I'm not.
I'm madly in love with Jesus.
I follow Christ.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it.
You won't
This side of
take
it,
me
yeah.
away from my relationship with Jesus.
Right.
There you go. Well, let me just say this real quick, just in case we do run out of time. I can't thank the three of you enough, because this means so much to me. And again, at the end of the day, man, if it reaches one person, it did its job. It's real, man. He is so very real.